Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer because what we're looking at today is the absolute dual reality of the Chicago Bears 2026 offseason. Welcome to NFL Nexus, everyone. I am incredibly pumped to guide you through this deep dive into Chicago's roster construction. Look, we have a ton of moving parts to unpack today. On one hand, you have the absolute euphoria, the sheer high of landing an elite draft steal. But then, on the flip side, you have the brutal, cutthroat reality of the NFL roster bubble, where guys are quite literally fighting for their professional livelihoods. It's a fascinating dynamic. We are going to break down exactly what general manager Ryan Poles and head coach Ben Johnson are building in that locker room. But hey, really quickly before we jump into the breakdown, do me a huge favor, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this explainer, and definitely drop a comment down below with your thoughts on these offseason moves. Oh, and also, if you want to help support the channel, you've got to check out our custom coloring books. Honestly, they are perfect for children, grandchildren, and honestly, adults as well. They're a ton of fun. You can grab them super easily through the link in the description right below, or simply scan the QR code you see popping up on your screen right now. So we've got a really clear roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to start by looking at the broader roster shakeup happening in Chicago. Then we absolutely have to talk about the Dylan Thieneman steal because, wow, what a move. After that, we'll pivot to the culture shift under Coach Johnson, which is proving to be incredibly cutthroat. And finally, we'll spotlight 3 specific returning players who have officially been put on notice. It's the circle of life in the NFL, and it's happening right now in Chicago. All right, let's set the stage with this absolute roster shakeup. You have to understand the math here. The NFL is a strict numbers game.
And that numbers game brings us to a move that I think is going to define this front office for years, the steal of Dylan Thieneman.
Think about this for a second. When a front office brings in 7 new drafted rookies, plus a whole wave of highly prioritized undrafted free agents, it creates this massive immediate ripple effect throughout the entire building. The NFL mandates a strict 53-man roster limit. There's no wiggle room. So every single time Ryan Poles brings a new player into the facility, an existing player gets pushed one step closer to the exit door. It's a zero-sum game. And the absolute anchor of this entire rookie class, the guy causing the biggest ripple, is the masterstroke Poles pulled off at pick number 25. The Bears completely, and I mean completely, remodeled their safety room this offseason. They let veterans Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker depart. Now that creates a massive leadership and talent void on the back end. But look at how they filled it. They bring in veteran free agent Kobe Bryant and our main focal point today, former Oregon standout Dylan Thieneman. Bryant is already highly comfortable playing that free safety role, which makes drafting Thieneman absolutely perfect. The guy is incredibly well equipped to just step right in from day one and play strong safety, even though, honestly, if you put on his tape, his film shows he can truly play anywhere on the field. This total reconstruction of the defensive backfield, it's a massive gamble. You're swapping out known, proven commodities, but experts widely agree this is a gamble that will pay off immensely for defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. Because, guys, the value Chicago got here is just insane. Grabbing Thieneman at 25, analysts fully expected him to vanish much, much earlier in the night. Going into the draft, Thieneman had massive buzz. We're talking draft expert Daniel Jeremiah projecting him to go way up in that 9 to 12 range. Think about that drop. In fact, Jeremiah even revealed that some NFL teams actually had Thieneman ranked higher on their internal draft boards than Caleb Downs. And Downs was the very first safety drafted, going 11th overall to the Cowboys. To get a talent that some front offices view as the best safety in the class just by sitting on your hands, sticking and picking at 25, that is exactly why ESPN's Field Yates ruled the selection as literally one of the best of the entire first round. But let's look beyond just the abstract draft value. This pick solves real-world glaring problems for the Chicago Bears. Remember last season, in 2025, Chicago finished with the 6th worst run defense and the 11th worst pass defense in the entire league. They were getting gashed. They desperately needed an injection of high football IQ, elite instincts, and sheer athleticism. They needed a Swiss Army knife, a player who can drop back and cover, but who absolutely isn't afraid to step up into the box and stop the run. And that brings us to the data, which objectively visualizes just how dynamic this kid is. Look at these pro football focus grades. A 90.5 coverage grade. That is elite, folks. We're talking top 8 among all safeties in college football. It completely backs up Field Yates' claim that Thieneman possesses the best ball skills in this entire draft class. He's a total ball hawk. But then look right below that at his run defense grade, a 69.5. Now, for a defensive back whose primary job is coverage, a near 70 run defense grade is highly respectable. What does that tell us? It proves he isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. He will come flying down into the box and run support. He's aggressive. He tackles with intent. Basically, he checks every single box the Bears needed checked to fix those 2025 defensive woes. Nailing this pick at 25 puts Ryan Poles a huge step above the rest of the league when it comes to maximizing first-round value. But as I mentioned earlier, You can't bring in all this shiny new talent without acknowledging the harsh reality for the guys already in the building. That brings us to the business side of the NFL and the cutthroat culture Coach Johnson is building. If you want to know what it's like inside Hallis Hall right now, this quote perfectly captures it. Coach Johnson is explicitly signaling a brutal shift. The honeymoon of the draft is over, and now we are entering fierce, unforgiving roster competition. Johnson said, point blank, "We're looking for high-level competitors, guys that if you took football away from them, they really don't know what to do with themselves. They eat it, they sleep it, they breathe it." What he's saying is that casual professionals will not survive in his building. He demands an absolute obsession with the game. He firmly believes that when you have a roster full of guys who eat, sleep, and breathe football, they are going to find a way to come out on top when the game is on the line. You can clearly see this exact mindset in the DNA of all the new additions Ryan Poles brought in. And because that standard is now being ruthlessly applied across the board, the temperature has been cranked way up on several returning veterans who might have felt safe a few months ago. So let's talk about the casualties of this culture shift. Let's look at 3 specific players who are officially on notice. We've got guys squarely on the roster bubble fighting for their survival right now, and I want to start with this incredibly stark number, 31. Just 31. That is the staggeringly low number of total defensive snaps that 2025 fourth-round pick Ruben Hippolyte II played last year. Let that number sink in for a minute. 31 defensive snaps across an entire NFL season. The Bears took a pretty major reach when they drafted Hippolyte in the 4th round just last year. Defensive coordinator Dennis Allen had identified Hippolyte's raw speed as a trait his defense absolutely needed to get to the next level. The vision was there, but the reality, it did not match the draft day hype at all. Hippolyte played in only 7 games. And honestly, what's more incredible, and definitely more troubling, is that he was a healthy inactive for 6 games during the regular season. Healthy. They just didn't want him out there. The defining fact here, the one that really puts his job in jeopardy, is that even when the Bears' linebacker position suffered widespread injuries last year, Hippolyte still could not earn a defensive role on the field. When the door was wide open, he didn't walk through it. And when you look at how the front office reacted, you see the mathematical odds are severely stacked against him, and others. Just look at this breakdown. Instead of sitting back and hoping Hippolyte naturally develops in year 2, the Bears aggressively revamped the linebacker room. Poles brought in a wave of guys directly targeting his spot. We're talking veteran Devin Bush, Jack Sanborn, and drafted rookie Keyshawn Elliott. That's a ton of traffic. Then you look at cornerback. Terrell Smith is being intensely squeezed by Zaya Frazier, who's returning from a missed rookie season, and Malik Muhammad, a guy the Bears literally traded up to draft in the 4th round. When a team trades up for a guy at your position, you should be worried. And over on the offensive line, Jordan McFadden is facing extreme pressure from new center Logan Jones and, crucially, an undrafted free agent named Caden Barnett. Let's look a little closer at Terrell Smith, because honestly, his story shows just how terrifyingly fast your fortunes can change in this league. Smitty was a genuinely solid find in the 5th round back in 2023. He was highly productive early on. He played 6 games, rotating on the outside with Tyreek Stevenson, and he logged a very respectable 584 defensive snaps over those first 2 seasons. Coach Allen had very high hopes for him. But as the old saying goes, the NFL stands for not for long, especially when injuries strike. Late last summer, Smitty suffered a devastating torn Achilles. It wiped out his entire 2026 season. And now he's attempting this grueling return to prove himself all over again, but the room is infinitely more crowded than when he left it. With Frazier getting healthy and Muhammad arriving as a premium trade-up asset, the cornerback room is going to feature an absolute dogfight in training camp. Smitty might tragically end up being the odd man out, purely because of the unfortunate timing of his injury and the hyper-aggressive nature of this front office trying to upgrade everywhere. And if you want proof of just how ruthless the NFL is, look no further than Jordan McFadden. We are not talking about some fringe practice squad guy here. McFadden has legitimate playoff pedigree. Do you remember the NFC divisional round when Joe Thuney had to kick over to left tackle? It was McFadden who got the nod to start at left guard. He was thrown into a massive pressure cooker of a game, and he earned his keep, proving exactly why the Bears had kept him stashed on that 53-man roster. He was a hero in that moment. But under Coach Johnson, past heroics do not guarantee future employment, period. The Bears went out and aggressively attacked the undrafted free agent market this year, paying top dollar, and I mean significant guaranteed money, to bring in offensive lineman Caden Barnett. Barnett brings massive versatility with experience at both right guard and right tackle. You add him into the mix with a future starting center like Logan Jones, plus backup guards, and suddenly Chicago has this massive logjam of interior depth. The real danger for McFadden is the waiver wire math. With so much depth on this roster, whoever the Bears eventually decide to cut will almost certainly be poached by another team before Chicago can safely tuck them away on their own practice squad.
It is a high-stakes numbers game, and McFadden is right in the crosshairs.
So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a massive question to chew on as we head into training camp. With all this talent injected into the building, who is actually going to rise to Coach Johnson's extreme standard? And who is going to be looking for a new job by the end of August? We've explored the incredible high of landing a foundational piece like Dylan Thieneman at pick 25, a guy who perfectly fills the leadership void and brings elite grades to both the run and pass defense. But we've also stared down the stark, unforgiving reality facing guys like Ruben Hypolite, Jarrell Smith, and Jordan McFadden. The Chicago Bears are systematically building a culture of extreme competition. Ben Johnson demands players who breathe football, and Ryan Poles is providing a relentless stream of talent to push the bottom of that roster to the absolute brink. It is going to be fascinating to watch. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on NFL Nexus today. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this explainer, and definitely sound off in the comments which of these bubble players do you think actually survives the final 53-man cut. And hey, one last reminder, you can grab your copy of our custom coloring books via the link in the description or that QR code on the screen. Seriously, they're great for the whole family. I will see you guys in the next explainer as we continue to track every move of this incredible offseason. Take care.